indeed a pleasure to host all of you this morning. And thank you for joining in for today's session of the Sense and Sensibility lecture series. This lecture series was conceived to allow access to expert viewpoints from across the globe on holistic, non-compartmentalized and sensitive design solutions. The first SNS, as we call it, was inaugurated by George Ferguson, who's an architect and the first mayor of the city of Bristol. We also have had Amit Pasricha, Yasmin Larry, Rafiq Azam, Andre Arana Correa Dalago, who's a Pritzker jury member, our own Jaisim from Fountainhead in Bangalore with Professor Narendra Dengle, and architect Sirish Berry as our past speakers. And today we have the privilege to host architect and Professor Prasanna Desai and architect Amit Gupta for our 8th edition of SNS. Prasanna and I go back a long way indeed, back to the time at SPA when we were pursuing our education. We met again in 2003, I think, and have been following each other's journey closely since. My first introduction to Amit and Rita was when they were invited as guest speakers at the Malaysia edition of the Asia Young Designer Awards. I think that was around 4 years ago. I knew of their practice before that, but I have been studying their work more intently since then. I have immense respect for both the guests here today. Prasanna, for the magic you weave with your students and the honesty in your practice. Amit, for the meticulousness in your processes and the generosity with which you share your ways of doing things that have steered your success. Before we begin, I'd like to make an announcement. This session is special because it marks ASEG's 3rd anniversary, which fell on the 15th of August, and Ethos's 19-year anniversary, which falls on 29th of September, exactly 1 month from now. And so we have something special for you. We will be giving one lucky winner the opportunity to avail one of the 3 courses offered by ASEG for free at the end of the session. How can you be that lucky person, you ask? Be attentive and answer 3 questions that will be posed to you at the end of the session based on today's talks. And then watch out for the announcement. So now back to the topic at hand. Today's presentations are to focus on the importance of design research in practice and pedagogy. Design research is foundational to sensitive design outcomes. In the built environment, it influences the psychology of individual users and their interactions in groups, understanding their socio-economic cultural context, aligning observations with design makes design holistic. The most crucial aspect of designing and planning on large-scale projects is their resource consumption, timeline, and lifespan. Buildings can be timeless, and thus you just don't design for the present, but for the future, and a sustainable future for all, hopefully. Hence, studying, searching, and researching before putting the pen to paper is crucial. Architect Amit Gupta and Professor Prasanna Desai have made research an intrinsic and integral part of their own design processes. I'm positive that at the end of this session, we will all be returning with a renewed reverence and a better understanding of research in design and the academic process. Ethos has always believed in mentoring and giving a platform to young minds, an effort to equip students to be agents of change, to lead and not just follow, and to contribute towards building of a harmonious society. With that spirit, it's good to have with us Tarun Krishnan, who is the National Vice President of NASA India, and he will be the student moderator for today's session. I now hand over this virtual platform to the young man. Over to you, Tarun.
Thanks a lot, Geeta ma'am. Hello, everyone. I'm Tarun Krishna, and I welcome all of you for today's talk. The session will have 2 power-packed presentations by architect Professor Prasanna Desai and architect Amit Gupta, followed by a moderated Q&A session. As a representative from NASA India, it gives me immense joy to collaborate with Ethos. NASA India, being one of the largest architectural student organizations in the world, has always strived for student empowerment through its activities. Similarly, Ethos ESEG strives for individual excellence through design education. We are delighted to foster this collaboration that aims to empower and educate students while enabling architecture education all over the country. Now I'm delighted to introduce architect Amit Gupta as the first speaker for today's Sense and Sensibility lecture. Architect Amit Gupta is a co-founder of Studio Symbiosis, founded in 2010. Studio Symbiosis is an emerging multidisciplinary practice based in 3 cities internationally that seamlessly entwines the fields of architecture, landscape, and geology through often fluid and dynamic forms. Their offices are based in London, Stuttgart, and New Delhi. This diversity gives them opportunities to work in different parts of the world. Their design philosophy is to create integrated design solution, imbibing amalgamated, efficient, robust, and sustainable design, leading to performative architecture. And today, Architect Amit will share with us how research empowers his design process. Over to you, Mr. Amit.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks to everyone for the amazing introductions. And Geetika, it's really always a pleasure to see you in person. Well, these days not in person, but virtually. So when you spoke about this topic, design as research, it's really very close to us because for us, research and design go hand in hand. It's really the DNA of design that is research because we don't want to go to the basics and start reinventing everything from scratch. There's a lot of peers and there's a lot of mentors, which we can call like Fly Auto or Lars Boybrook. There are a lot of people who have done extensive research throughout their life. The only thing they did was research. So as an architectural fraternity, I think we are a bit close-minded at times, not trying to look at what other people are doing. But it's always good to learn from where other people are coming from and where they were going. So I'll just start my presentation with this. So to explain this topic of design as research, I've taken the topic of diagrams. Diagram is one of the oldest techniques in architectural design repertoire, which has been used by people like FOA, by Foster's, by Zaha. Why diagram? Because diagram gives us a systematic approach towards design. It's a very clear direction. And as designers, at times we want to think what the design can be. But I always believe that the design is amalgamation of the client, the architect, as well as a site. So what the diagram does, it keeps our preconceived notions on the site and lets the system, which is coming from the site and other brief parameters, drive it. So in a way, you don't really take the architect out of the equation, but you help the architect or help us. These diagrams, they help us in creating and driving the design through and through at every stage of the process. So that's why a diagram. Now, when we say research, we are looking at different modes of research. It can be material-based research, it can be technology or system-based research, or it can be research through prototypes on existing projects. So now I was mentioning the use of diagrams by the past masters. So this is an example of the wool thread method, which was used by Fry Otto. So in this case, it is about material intelligence. So here it's a very simple wool thread method. The image on the leftmost image is a wool thread model, which when dipped in a soap bubble, it gives us this shortest path distance. So before all this computational techniques emerged, sorry. Hello. Yeah. So before all these computational techniques emerged, a lot of analog models were used by the past masters. So this is just one of the examples. Then this is another one where another analog model was made by one of the most famous architects and one of the most celebrated projects of our lifespan, which is Sagrada Familia in Spain, in Barcelona. So here gravity was the driver to create the geometry. So essentially it's an inverted chain system mechanism where the chains and the entire system is made, and through gravity, the design is emerged. And what you see on the rightmost image is a mirror. So this is an inverted chain mechanism on the bottom. And the inverse of this on the top is a Sagrada Familia. So both these projects are looking at a system which was set up by the architect, but the design is generated through external forces, through forces of nature. Why forces of nature? Because anything in nature exists in perfect harmony. So you'll not find anything in nature which is out of balance. And by using gravity and by using wool thread method, especially in this one, which it essentially meant is that the project is actually in balance with the structure. And so this was one of the design elements which was used as a diagramming tool. Now coming a bit more towards the current scenario. So this is OMA. So the image on the left is showing this program, right? So this program consists of housing, it consists of offices, parking, all of these things. Now, what they've done is, what you see on the top are these 4 non-woven programmatic elements which are existing. But using a diagrammatic system just to interweave the program, which is a very simple system, right? Program at times is seen as a very banal thing by architects. But what OMA is doing at the bottom here, you see that this interweaving of that program is done in plans, in sections, in elevations by nesting them into each other. And by doing this, they get a very rich interlayering and a very rich interaction of different functions with each other. So this is in terms of diagramming as a very simple interweaving the design. Then this is Mr. Eisenman. So of course, Peter Eisenman is one of the ones who really tried to push and introduce digital design. So he calls it a new form of writing through his design and systems. So these are again diagrams which he was using to create a systematic approach towards a design. I think this is the last one. So this is space syntax. So space syntax, they look at human movement. So at the end of the day, any project which is being executed is occupied by humans. This is what we're designing for. And the occupational happens on the ground floor and the floor plans. So what is essentially the diagram show is the first diagram shows the movement of humans or the occupants in the space. And then the middle one shows the heat mapping in terms of the maximum usage of the areas and minimum usage of the areas. So why is it useful is because by doing trajectory movement analysis, you can take out the most redundant space of any design and create a very robust and efficient design. So this is why movement analysis is very critical. So now agent-based modeling is being done and other things are done. And then going to the city scale, space syntax is again the masters. Bill Hiller is the guy. So here in this particular case, on the extreme right, they are doing a city-based mapping of the hotspots of the city. So even now, if you're doing master plan studies or anything we're doing, so there are railway stations. So you have to take 5 kilometer, 2 kilometer radiuses and analyze the traffic and the movements. So this is where this diagram comes into play to help you resolve the left two are for spatial analysis for a small architectural space, and the right one is for city level analysis. Now this diagramming system, so I would like to present them in 3 systems. So one is natural systems. Then how do you translate context using a diagram? How do you create an iterative system, iterative loop or a computational script, whatever you want to call, as a diagram? And the last is a material intelligence. I think I might not have time to cover all of them. So please stop me when I'm done with the time so I can move on. So the first one is about translating nature. So this particular project, it's a perfume park and museum based out of Kannauj. So Kannauj is this very rudimentary grassroots level perfume making. We call it Itru. So Itru is the essence of perfume. And on the right are these beautiful, elegant images from Grasse, which is in France, where Christian Dior and all these perfumes are made. So now this is a twin city agreement between city of Kannauj and city of Grasse to create a skill development center and a perfume park and museum in Kannauj. So where the French perfumeries, they will come and train our local craftsmen. And also it's a tourist destination. So for us, when we speak about perfume park and museum, that's the project. So flower is the essence of creating a perfume. So perfume is made a few different ways. In Grasse, they're always using flowers to create the perfume. So basically the essence of a perfume is a flower, and that's where we want to start. But having said this, we did not want to make another lotus temple. We do not want to be very literal. So in our geometries and architecture, the systems are more important than the final look of the project at times, because system is what is organizing geometry. Let's say, I also see at times it has a combination of math plus art, where the design comes out from it. So what you see is the central bud of a sunflower, and then the Fibonacci series is what is the governing system for the Fibonacci series, the central bud of the flower. So it's an exponentially growing system from the center. So the way the design evolved is we mark the center point of the site, and we started developing the script for the Fibonacci series. At the center and the heart of the design, the requirement from the client was to put the museum part. So the perfume. So what you see here is the evolution. So the topmost is the evolution of the grid. Then the in between diagram, it shows this evolving grid where the parcels next to the museum are flower beds. So this is where the flower for the perfumes are grown. It's also for a visitor because it's a visitor center also. So when a visitor comes, they also are, they get to know it's about information that perfume is coming from flowers, and this is also creating the beauty of the project, becomes a landscape of the project. And the client wanted bigger parcels next to the site. So there's a distillery on the left, then there are some dormitories and skill development centers. So the beauty about the grid is that in the same system, I can create small flower beds. And then at the periphery, I can create this 4 to 5 acre there's distilleries and other buildings. So the entire site is 50 acres, which I'm showing you. The current project is 100 acres. So this is how the overall design came into being. So you see these two big buildings on the left and right. And then in the heart of the project is the perfume museum. So again, because it's a diagram-based system, so this Fibonacci series also evolves in terms of the ceiling and the roof system of the main building. The main building itself are 3 petals of a flower. So this is how we conceptually modeled it and designed it, which becomes a central part. And then there's a gradient in terms of a very public function for the visitor. And as you move outwards, it's more for the function which is happening for the performance of the particular site. So yeah, this is the overall view. And with these Fibonacci lines, the very nice thing which came as a surprise is that when a person is moving on the site, the trajectory of movement is always heading towards a museum. So it converges because the diagram is based on a convergence diagram. So everything converges into the central museum. And this becomes a main focal point of the design. This is just a view at night. So the project is under construction. It's actually off the Agra-Lucknow Expressway. So usually we don't design projects looking at an aerial. But in this particular case, because the site is a bit at a lower topography and the expressway is higher, so we will see parts of this project at an elevated view. So this is just showing the day-to-day gardening of the park and the dandelions flying around. Now the second project is again a representation of nature. So the project is based in Udaipur. And the idea for us was to create a dune complex. So it's a 1.5 acre property. And the idea is to create these villas, one villa each, 8 villas in total. So we wanted to translate this context of the beautiful sand dunes, this beautiful color, and to really, for a guest when he comes there, it should be experience that he's staying in dunes of Rajasthan. So this was the ideology behind the project. And what we see here is just a little fly through of the project. So we have this one system is basically one system which we generated along this linear site. And then on one side you have the reception and the other side is a restaurant. And as you go deeper in the site, so the first 2 buildings are looking inward towards the courtyard because these are public buildings. And all the others are looking outside because these are all villas, so privacy. So we have nothing looking inside the central courtyard or the central oasis, which we have here. Also, the materials is lime plaster, and we're using ferro concrete for the shells. So the idea is, of course, also not to shoot the cost of the project by doing these contemporary complex geometries. And so the central part of the project becomes oasis with the water body, the pool sits here, the villas are surrounding it. And each villa, it seamlessly flares out from the landscape and disappears back into the landscape. So this was the entire thinking that it should be about nature. So when a person comes here, he should really experience what Rajasthan can be about. Or if you are really a person who's living inside a dunes, let's say. So this is the feeling we get. So these are just some of the images from the project which we are constructing. So again, architecture is not just about visuals, it's also about constructability, which is very important. And as far as possible, if we can be sustainable, not just in terms of, let's say, materials or other things, but we should be also sustainable in terms of the local craftsmen, because we cannot use excessive contemporary technology. And at the end of the day, our local craftsman is non-existent. So this is something which we are at least trying that we can avoid it. So these are some more visuals where this dunescape is forming from the landscape. So it's a ferrocrete shell which we are creating. So, and also in Udaipur, they have some ferrocrete engineers, contractors. So we are using this local contractors using ferrocrete. It's a very simple system and a very old system, which is there. But as we start getting more and more contemporary, a very simple example is chip flooring, which was used in India, which was, I think, 50 to 100 rupees a square feet, versus a terrazzo, which is Italian flooring, which is 1,000 rupees a square feet. So most of the people cannot tell the difference between the two. So similarly, if you look at a ferrocrete shell or something which is very contemporary in terms of laser jetting and laser cutting, so at the end, you cannot really tell the difference, which is a technique or technology. And then another thing which we are doing is that we are promoting this local craftsmen who are doing lime plastering. So in the renderings, the texturing which you saw in the building is using lime plaster, which is essentially to finish off the ferrocrete shell. So for this, we are again using this local craftsmen from the city from Rajasthan itself. And the central part of the project becomes the performance area. So because if a guest is coming, there should be a multifunctional area in the project where local artists can come. There can be some exhibitions. There can be multifunction space. So now the second part of this is translating context. It's a small villa. So here the context was, sorry, the image is very bad, but the circle is where the site is, and the arrows are showing towards the landscape park. So the context in this particular case was the green. So only the green was the context, because when we visited the site, it's a very odd shaped site. And when we visited the site, the client's brief was really that, Amit, if I can see the park from the house, and also if you can give me some green in the house. So based on these two design briefs, we create a villa, which is sitting. So first of all, these streamlines, they come inside the property and they create the overall form for us. So this was the concept design. So the idea is that the landscape seamlessly merges over the building. And as you step up, there's a rooftop garden. So there's the direct connection which we try to create between the built and the landscape by creating the steps which are emerging. So the reason I'm showing you this is to also show the final image. So this is right after the project was completed and the client moved in. So the plants are still young plants. I think they would be much more grown now, but the idea is that in this case, the diagram of creating a landscape system and the simple streamlines entering the property, they define the built form, they define the landscape, they define the water body, they define everything for us. So by being true to the system, the perspective is very strong. You can really hold the perspective in place, and also the movement patterns are there. So it's very clear that when you enter this lines seamlessly, they come on the roof and they bring a person. It's not a forced movement. It's a very natural movement which you're trying to get to reach the roof. Then this diagram further translates into the views which we get. So the ceiling patterns, the ceiling edges, everything is coming from this. Then even for diagram, even let's say something as simple as a chandelier, it also comes from its own diagram. So it's about the system and the space. So it was all customized, the furniture in the space. And of course, it was all about clean lines because the outside of the project is this very clean line. So inside is also about the same. I think I might be running out of time. So I'll just skip this project. So this one, the third topic is iterative systems. I think this project, some of you might have seen. So this project now finally is about to finish in 2-3 months. The mockups are being done. So the only thing I'll be very quick about this project, because this is a very highly published project. So the entire thing about this was, when we started this project, the diagram for us was a counter thesis to all the projects which exist in Gurgaon. So in Gurgaon, we have all these glass buildings, offices. But when you go inside the office, they have to pull down the blind because the amount of light coming inside the office is so much that there's too much glare and they cannot work inside. So the thing about creating office or any building is creating optimum spaces. So in this particular case, the optimum lux level we were looking at was 500 lux level on the desk height. And then also the glare index was looked at. So for us in this particular case, the diagram was not really it was basically thesis which became the diagram and became the design. And then as you come in, the lines of the building, they pull you in, the floor lines, the light lines. And so it was an iterative design where the facade pattern changes based on the video escape is where the optimization of the wall window ratio is being done to create this kind of opening ratio. So north facade is 81% open, of course, because there's not a lot of direct sunlight which is coming in. And then south was 27% open. Now we increased it a bit because from inside also it was a bit too closed. So we had to also look at this. Cannot just go by numbers from the computational systems. So so this one is an office building in Mumbai. It's a mixed use project actually. So the lower part is office and the upper part is a residential building. Now, the reason this sits in the iterative project is it was a very difficult project for us because what you see as the first small building is the existing part of the project. This project sits there from 1980s. The project is called ID Origins. So ID is the name of the owner and Origins is where the company started. So because of the sentimental values which they had, they did not want to demolish the existing building. And the idea was to retain the existing where they will operate their office from, extend on top by putting a transfer slab, residential floors, and then somehow combine it. So because the existing site is so constrained and the structure is very critical, so we had to pull these columns from ground up. So it was a very authority and numbers driven project to start. But then how we try to evolve this and make it a bit more articulated is to create this calligraphic strokes, which articulate the column grid of the lower floors with the column grid of the upper floors. So this is a classic case of converting design challenges into design opportunity. Because it was really a very shifted grid and then the building steps back and a lot of things happen. So this is the rendering which we did during concept design. So as you see, the lower part of the building is the offices, and also we have put this perforated screens to make sure that there's not a lot of solar heat gain inside the office building. And then on the upper floors, usually clients are looking at a very clean visibility to the outside. They want to have floor to ceiling windows, and where the vertical strips are running is mainly the columns area. This is a night view. So now also another thing is, a lot of you would have heard this from people that architects show something and they deliver something else. So all our projects, we're 100% sure to make sure that we show the concept image. That's why I showed you the villa image as the concept, and also this one and the finished product. So this is a finished product of the project. So this opened 5 months, 6 months ago. So when you compare this to the concept design image, we're very close to it. Of course, the articulation of the systems and the mullions and transoms and the sliding doors are articulated and more visible. But when you see the Dudhwala lobby sitting proud there, and then you also see this vertical lines. So in terms of materiality, finishing, execution, we managed to go very close. And also the Tron lights are sitting in the center of the project, which you are aiming for. So this is the location and you see the surroundings. So entire thing in the back is Dudhwala complex. So this is also going to renovation the backside of the property. So this in a way shows you this undulating calligraphic lines, which are climbing on the building and creating this kind of sense. It's also performance driven space because the lower parts are offices, like I said. So it was about creating a balance between lower part of the building, the overall building, and then different parts of the building. I think I'm almost out of time. I can just cover one more project. This is very close to me, because in this particular project, it was all about material intelligence. It was a pure research-based project. We had no idea if this project will come into being or not. So what you see here is not a rendering. This is the image from the photo shoot. This is the built product, which we had submitted. So here, the idea for us was to revive a traditional technique called kerfing. Kerfing is essentially taking a piece of wood, creating these scoring lines, and then bending it. So you might see a little bit here where the radius is very tight, there's an inside curving, and then we also have outside. So it's a combination of inside and outside based on the curvature analysis which we got from the systems. So it's a very old system, and when we're making furniture, we waste a lot of material. Usually a person will take a ply, remove the top side, bend it, or chisel it, CNC. So in this particular case, so this is essentially what you see. The thickness of this is the flat piece of wood which we got. The only wastage which happened was the slitting. When the slits were made, then the powder which came out was the wastage. This is the only thing which we discarded from the system. Rest everything was retained in its pure form. So when we say design is research, research does not come without failures. So in the top left, you see, so we were here investigating types of wood and then the grain of the wood. Should we do the curving along the grain or against the grain? So funny enough, in the end, I think the solution which we got was not what we thought would be, but this is research. So yeah, these are some failures. The first one failed, second one failed, third one was too hard. So then we also did some computational, digitally, we were also trying to see how much the bending can happen. We tried some patterns for this curving. So, and then a very simple line is what we required. Sorry, I did not really remember. There's a video here. So this is I'll just scrub through it. Okay, so I think, sorry, but my system has crashed. So anyway, this was the last project. So where I want to show you how this material-based intelligence can be used to create a systematic approach towards design. So in this case, it was the wood, a piece of wood, a very simple piece of wood, which is the scoring lines. And then through bending this and through starting this is how we create this piece of furniture. So yeah, thank you. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Architect Amit. That was quite a presentation. The methods and tools that you use for conducting and analyzing your research are indeed commendable and something that we can all learn from. We do hope to make the research process an intrinsic part of our own design processes from here on. Now, I would like to invite our second speaker for the day, Architect Professor Prasanna Desai, to the virtual podium. Architect Prasanna Desai is the founder of Prasanna Desai Architects based in Pune, a firm that works a lot in the social and urban sector and is known for their contextual designs. He is also the principal of VIT's Padma Bhushan Vasantdada Patil College of Architecture, Pune, an institute that is steadily gaining a name as one of the foremost institutes for architecture in the country. As an academician and a practicing architect, Architect Prasanna has a thorough knowledge of the workings in both the sectors. He sincerely believes in the power of research and the good it does for the design process. Through his institute, along with his students and faculty team, he has conducted extensive research on various urban, social, academic, and architectural spaces, one of the most notable being Streets for People, an initiative that documented and brainstormed life on the busy streets of Pune. We are indeed honored to have you with us here today, sir. I now hand it over to you and we look forward to your presentation. Sir, you're on mute.
Thank you, Isha. Yeah, thank you, Isha, for that introduction. Thank you, Geeta. It is always a pleasure to be associated with Ethos. And as Geeta has always given the introduction, this journey goes back, which she has said, and it is very, very nostalgic. So congratulations on your 20, 15 years, 19 years, 25 years for all the activities that you do. And
Thank you so much.
You have been a backbone to the academic and the professional environment in India. And I think everybody really looks forward and blindly closes the eye whenever it is Ethos. You don't have to think. It's like Amul, you know, once you say Amul, it is Amul. So it's like that. It's Ethos. So thank you. And I have a long presentation, and like Amit tried to skip through the slides and eliminate them. I may not eliminate them. I may overshoot. That has been Sometimes I do that, but I hope that I will be within time. So let me just straight away share my screen. Is it full screen? Yeah, it is becoming full screen. Yeah, just give me a minute. Okay, so yes, I hope you can see this. So let me start. So this is the journey, and I'm going to share two journeys. These two journeys basically are at the office, but obviously there is a lot of background that goes behind it, and the journey has been long for, let us say, 40 years plus since I passed out from Delhi School of Planning and Architecture in 1980. So the first journey is about participation, research through participation. Then the second journey, I will call it the research through the print. It is research through the print. Yeah. So design and research, as we have been talking, is interlinked. So the first one is really what is called as the tailor-made transformation. So this is a participatory research, and we started and we did this project, and the research evolved along with it. There was nothing set agenda that this is the way we will be doing it. So it is to do with something called, as we all know, our slums. Now, I personally don't like the definition slums. I call them lower income settlements or settlements, but I see actually no problem with them right now. If you see these streets, they have good light, good ventilation. The streets are fine. I think people are interactive there. So, but there is obviously healthy and hygienic conditions there. You can see some houses in between which are made out of tin. So this is the project which one was looking at, whether we can insert and rebuild these houses for the poor. And that was our research. It was a government project. It was funded by the JNNURM and BSUP, Basic Services for Urban Poor, and we are pulled in to support this through the Bill Gates Foundation, and then Mahila Milan and Spark in Mumbai, and CHF internationally. So I will just go through the stages that one went through, and the research evolved. The first stage was as simple, and this is like a college project. You go, you have the data with you, you document all the people who are the genuine people, like maybe the documenting the students who are there, then documenting the site. You have the site there, so this is the site plan. Then trying to mark what is the pakka houses and what are the kacha houses. The pakka houses are the black ones, the kacha houses are the white ones. So one is trying to look at inserting these kacha houses into it. Then we make a model. So you look at your own studio project, it's like a studio project. And I personally believe that the studio at the office and the studio of the college has no difference whatsoever. The office also should run like a studio in the college, and vice versa. So this is the model that we made. And then we said that this is the brown ones that we will insert it. For doing that, the documentation process of which are the kachas, which are the pakkas. And this is what we do with students. We send them on site, we say document everything. And number of students and trainees work with us over a period of 4 to 5 years when we are doing this project. And then we evolved a strategy where, looking at the street, we said that there is a public space, there is a semi-public space, and there is a private space. You can see the cream, the green, and the white space. And that is the way we thought that we will do the inserts. We made a unit plan like this, which shows the three colors, that the front veranda merges with the street. We made models like this. You can see the extreme right corner model, top one, which has the colored things. Somewhere we lifted the units up so that there is a space at the lower level for some kind of a things, that it may be papad making, it may be a shop repair or something, some open space for the poor, because they need these kind of open spaces. And this is spill over onto the street. So it is evolving the process of design to understanding the behavior and the style. The second one was where the plotted development was very, very dense. If you see the left-hand side bottom figure, you can see this number of plots which are there. Now we cannot rebuild on these small plots, so we amalgamated that and we put a parking below. That parking is also shown as a green, as a social space, so we are not calling it as parking. And then we have 4 units with a staircase, and each unit is 270 square feet carpet. So that is defined by the government norms. We make again model, so we insert the built model into it. And after doing these two typologies, one is that the individual house at their plot, and the second one is what we call the building type. We take it to the corporator. Now there is Sheila Patel, who is the Spark, there is the city engineer, and the right-hand side is the corporator. So discussions with them, and then we move on to what are called, we used to term. Now this terminology evolved as a research itself. After some time, when we used to go every evening for the meetings, we started calling them Janta Janardhan meetings. There are people, the Janta is there with you, you have the models there, and model is such a powerful tool, with the people, because the way, look at the way these citizens or the people are playing with it, and trying to understand what they are going to get, and look at the curiosity. So all these, that is happening in a small room, this is happening in a barat ghar, this is happening on a street. Look at the expressions of the people. Is, are we really going to get this kind of houses? Then this is the street, and you can see the corporator there trying to lead the way, and we have been always supportive, because finally it is the corporator and the local people who are very, very instrumental in Islam. And then this is a Ganesh Mandal Mandir, where we are also seeking the blessings of the Ganpati, so that the projects come through, because these kind of projects are very difficult to really get implemented. Having said that, these being two typologies, one is the independent bungalow and one is the G+3, we went to the people and took a voting. So this is also an evolving process, where we made these forms in Marathi and we asked people, which one do you prefer? So obviously people preferred for the plotted type, that they want independent plots with houses being stacked one on top of another for themselves. Then we went to each and every house and started explaining each and every design to them, and then taking their signature on that we agree to this house. Now this house is not clickety-click architecture, it is an insert, it is what is called by Patrick Gaddis as conservative surgery. This is what we are doing. So it comes into the press, as I said, and say that, oh, this is going to happen. The second stage comes, and you have to come back to the reality, that you have to go to the development plan, you have to go to the master plan, you have to see that your houses are sanctioned. So this is A, B, C, D, E, F is the 7 sites that we are handling. And each site, each house is to be differently designed because of the site conditions. So you play with the development plan, you work on it, and then you come to the individual house, and each and every house you make a plan for sanction. So here you are back to the mundane, you may call it, but at given time we were getting sanctions from around 900 houses. And somebody asked me, how many projects you are doing? I said, we are doing 900 projects, because we are doing 900 houses and each house is a different project. Then we prepare a mock, because the people are very skeptical what kind of a volume and what kind of a house we are going to get. Obviously we couldn't build a complete house, but we prepared a mock with the bamboo, and we tried to say that this is the kind of a volume that you will be getting, and that will become your house, and which is an independent house, which obviously can expand on top also. Having said that, we have to make people agree. So the whole clusters, each and every cluster, people are called together, and they are called for meeting, and they are explained that this is the way the whole cluster will be developed. We make them sit, discuss, and this is complete on to the ground, bottom up approach of research. Then we use all the other instruments. You can see the old Nokia models, trying to tell them that this is the way your houses would be, and then take their signatures or consent that you agree to it. And everywhere there is a discussion on in the room and in the site, and then you take their consent. Having said that, now comes the time of demolishing their own houses. And we had this whole issue of how fast they want to demolish. They really want to demolish. So we worked out a procedure that until and unless we give you a signal for demolition, you will not demolish your old houses. So we evolved what is called as demolition slip. So though this was not our role, now here I must try to tell you that as architects, many of these things were not our roles at all. But it was like that we went on going deeper into the project and started evolving this process. So people used to come to our office, and we set up at this particular time a site office, because this was impossible to handle it from a remote of 3 or 4 kilometers. And at this location of the site office, with our young team over there, every morning people will come and ask that, when are you giving us the demolition slip? So demolition slip is also the power and authority, and responsibility. So then you demolish. So once you demolish these houses in a dense slum like this, then you remeasure this. You remeasure this, and when you remeasure this, what you realize is, what you see in the light cream color is the area which you get after demolition, and where you get the blue color, which is what was with us as the plan when it was surveyed, because surveying is very, very difficult. So the site and the plot has completely changed now. Now what do? You again go into a redesign. You again go into a redesign, you again go into a discussion, and you again go into the signatures to take their consent. Having said that, then you reach the final stage of construction, and then you make pure working drawings. Here, I must also admit there have been a lot of discussions which have been happening. Did you explore something, or was it a simple structure? No, it was a simple structure, column beams, because there were many things which were also as per the mandate of the government. It has to take care of the earthquake. So the exploration of materials did not really happen much, but exploration of negotiation was always there. So with these drawings, we went and we started construction and inserting these houses into the slum. And this is the way they were constructed. And these were the G+1, which were inserted as the house type, as we call it. And every house is a different house as per the condition of the site and condition of each and every person. And this is the way you can see these are the inserts. These are the inserts. We are demolishing, we are building, we are demolishing, we are building. And that is what you get. So as I earlier said, no clickety click, but let me tell you, not a single house has been sold by any of the slum dwellers, and they proudly own this, own this. And this is within a cost limits of 3 lakhs. 3 lakh was the cost. And these interiors, obviously, to a certain extent, people have been changing their tiles and trying to put it together. And that is what the environment inside of each house is for them. So a healthy, hygienic living lifestyle. And then these two photographs, we have very few photographs of before and after, left hand side and right hand side. You can see, you can match with the window there, deep there. You can see the patra house or the tin house in front, and now this one being constructed. And this is an interesting side. If you see the chhajja on the first slide on the left, and you see the chhajja which is painted blue, you have seen the house is being inserted. So it's a virtual insertion into a existing slum. Many different typologies or names have been given to this, from kacha to pakka houses, focus on design in slum rehabilitation project, women lead the way in slum development, Mahila Milan, which was the NGO which was doing. This is in our architectural magazines, tailor-made transformation, participatory slum development process. This is Drona, in which it talks about housing design through community consultation, Government of India Knowledge Center, Indian Express saying how sums can get a facelift. And this is the last and the ultimate one, which is the design with other 90% cities. So this was an exhibition which was held by Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt Museum in New York, in United Nations headquarters, where this project was chosen. And we don't actually design for 90% of our cities. Architects are involved with only 10% or maybe 5%. Rest people self-built. And these were some projects which were displayed in United Nations headquarters. And from India, this was one of the projects which was displayed at UN headquarters. So from the slums where we are doing these models, which were made out of thermocol, these models landed in UN, and they were displayed, and they traveled in US. This whole exhibition traveled in US for almost 3 years. These were certain recommendations, which I will not go into the detail, that what were the learnings from it. And we gave certain recommendations to the government for the phase 2 of BSUP. And well, it takes time in the government to really reform certain things, but these recommendations and learnings were there. Maybe we can take them up in the question answer session. And this is what the feedback is. Finally, who gets benefited? It is directly the people, and it is they who give this reaction. So finally, architecture is extremely critical that we deliver to the society and the people. It is not only for our satisfaction, but it is also for the satisfaction of the society and the environment. So that has been the feedback. The next one that I said, that research through print, is creating healthy and hygienic human neighborhoods. Here, the research has been always there, and for last 20 years, we have been going through this. So the research comes from newspapers, articles, all other. So this is an Indian Express thing, which says 7 years ago, everyone saw Delhi's air taking a deadly U-turn. So it talks about pollution, landmark studies you can look at the school children suffering, Leave Delhi. The latest book by Bill Gates, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. And in this Bill Gates book, this is a pie chart there, which shows that transportation is responsible for 16%, heating, cooling 7%, manufacturing 31%, and electricity 27%, agriculture 19%. I feel except for agriculture, rest all is directly related to architecture. And I think we are responsible, and we need to take care of all the other aspects. So 80% of the development that is damaging our environment, we are somewhere or other responsible for it. And then we have been talking about all these typologies, which is rethinking cities, sustainable, resilient, livable, smart, etc. but I think all mean the same. Finally, you need a healthy environment. Cities look like this today, where energy consumption levels are extremely high, and that is what we have got used to it. There used to be cities like this, which is Jaisalmer and Jodhpur and all our old cities, which were in climate, context, connectivity, and culture. Someone may say, is it relevant today? I feel always everything is relevant, and Corona today has told us that everything which is there needs to be in balance. So what this is Jodhpur. What do you mean by balance is that we are, then is the green, red is now. And I think we have to choose a middle path. One is not saying that you go back to the green area. One is not saying that one should not move ahead to the current, which is now, but we must choose the middle path. So my famous example always has been the food. We talk about the pizzas and the burgers, and maybe we try to adopt it and ape it, but the Indian thali is the best, and architecture, I feel, is the Indian thali, because it varies from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and it needs to be adopted within the context. We wear like this. This is the where our dressing sense is. On the left, we have somebody from Rajasthan and we have somebody from UK and Europe, but we shouldn't be doing this. That is what all we need to really realize. So smart is being healthy, and citizens need to make healthy choices for healthy citizens. So this research starts with statements like this by Michael Bloomberg, who has been 3 times mayor of city of New York, where he says, and he makes certain profound statements, which I will not read. Then research which says walkable cities and walkable neighborhoods can reduce blood pressure and hypertension risk. More walkable neighborhood can reduce diabetes. Brisk walking, better method than losing weight and going to the gym. So roads and streets are arteries of the cities, and they are almost minimum 15 to 20% of the open spaces, at times more, maybe 30%. And this can be greatly compared to the veins of our body. And if we save trees, we get fresh air. If we have walkable streets, we get healthy habits. Cycle-friendly streets will give you a healthy lifestyle, and safe neighborhood will give you a healthy body. So I feel health should become the priority for designers. The points to ponder: this is Enrique Peñalosa, the Colombian politician and planner. A developed country is not a place where poor have cars. It is where rich use public transport. If you plan cities for cars and traffic, you get cars and traffic. And if you plan cities for people and places, you get people and places. This is Fred Kant. Healthy neighborhood, I feel, needs to have these 3 S approach. One is the safety, one is the shade, and one is the society. When we say safety, we are very direct and straight into 75,000 young lives lost in road accidents. Speed kills. If you are driving and you are hit by 20 kmph, the chances of survival is that 1 survives out of 10. If you are hit by a vehicle which is at 30 kmph, 5 will survive and 5 will have fatal accident. And if you are hit by 40 kmph, only 1 will survive and 9 will. Now, this is what needs to be understood. The next one is in terms of the hawkers. Hawkers on the street, who become part and parcel of our street. And these hawkers, whether they are facing the road, whether they are facing the shop there along with the footpath, they become the eyes on the street for the safety. So safety is not with the vehicle, safety is with people also. So safety can always be put in with this. This is a very famous slide which says UK, USA, and China. You can have so many cameras where you may be able to know about the act after the act is done and maybe catch the culprits. But the Indian cameras can prevent the act. And this is the eyes on the street theory by Jane Jacob. Next comes the shade. I don't have to tell you any research. This is no rocket science. The slide is clear by itself about what trees do and what shade does to the society or our environment, and how the shade can really be a part of the urban scape. This is in Coimbatore. Look at the trees, but here is a design element. The curb edge is on the right hand side. Why can't it be on the left hand side around the trees, so that we can give a lot of breathing to the trees? This is in Marathi. Those of you can understand Devanagari. What is the shade? It says that this is not a stunt, but nowadays if you park your two-wheeler in the sun, this is the way I have to drive it for a few minutes after I take out my two-wheeler. This is one of the most innovative researches that any society could do. This is in Pune. This is in the newspaper. You can read it below. These kind of 10 tarpaulins were erected by citizens at the junction so that they get shade when they are at the red light. I see this is research, and this is what we follow consistently through keeping our database in place. Imagine if trees gave us Wi-Fi, we will all be planting it like crazy. It is a pity that they gave us only oxygen we breathe. Having said that, this comes to society. This is a pedestrian street in Gangtok. The society has changed, but the basic typology or the behavior remains the same. The edge of the street is being used for reading, whether you read the newspaper, whether you read through mobile. The times have not changed. This is the old and the young. The 8-year-old and the 80-year-old use the street for different purposes, and both are enjoying the street. The streets can be used for people for this also. So importance of trees, apart from all other oxygen and all, is as a social space. We have a lot of new townships which are coming up all around the country, and these are the brochures. Now, in these brochures, if you open the pages, you will see these kind of readings. Read the red ones which are there. Children hopping, skipping, jumping to school, walk to work, right of way for pedestrians, pathways for walking, cycling, and jogging. This means we are all on the same page and we want safety. We want children playing with no cars coming in their way. So with this research, we have evolved a process which is called Dasha to Disha. See, we at our coffee tables at our home love to criticize, particularly all the middle income sits and criticizes, but there is no point in that. So Dasha to Disha project is demonstration of integrated, safe, habitable, affordable solutions for neighborhood. That is called the project Disha, under which we say that we can change the neighborhood provided we have these what is called as a 4D approach: data collection, design, discuss, and demonstration. So in a college or a school of architecture, we certainly reach till the third one. Demonstration at times is difficult, we know that, but that is what finally needs to happen. And if we bring in these changes, street lighting, garbage, trees, walking, cycling, public transport, handicap, street vendors, and open spaces, this will lead to property values going up, safety going up, health going up, and social interaction, pollution going down, and fuel consumption going down. And this is no rocket science. We don't need to be architects for it. This is simple common sense, common man, common sense. And if we do that, we will have a qualitative, economic, and environmental changes which will help us creating in healthy and hygienic neighborhoods. Having said that, this is the triangle: the cycle, the pedestrian, and the public transport, which will make our cities better. And these are the 6 principles. First principle, universal accessibility. Second principle, walkability. Third principle, paid parking. Parking needs to be paid and organized. Hawkers and vendors policy. Hawkers and vendors as eyes on the street need to be organized. Cycle network at various levels, and neighborhood shuttle, so that we have within the neighborhood some kind of a light public transport which helps us, maybe a sharing auto. So we have been working in 2 neighborhoods. One is the JM Road, FC Road, which finally has been now implemented, though we did not implement it, but the research has been done for last 10 to 15 years. And second left one is Aund, which went through these 3 phases. And it has been a 10-year journey, 10 to 11-year journey, which is 2009, 14, and 2016. The first one gave us this, where with the participation of the politician, we evolved and we reworked on this space and returned this space to the citizens. Otherwise, this space would have gone to the parking, basically, nothing else. It would have either taken over by the road or the parking, and this was returned to the citizens with simple plaster and brick seating, because the tender did not have any other kind of seating. And this is again the response. Second one was, as I think in the brief it was mentioned, Streets for People, by the People, a workshop done by PVP College of Architecture with Sumnet India and other NGOs, where we involved the 80 students of the third year BArch, and we said that we will expand from one street to the neighborhood. So the neighborhoods were divided into group A, B, and C. Then the discussion on the street, the classroom at the street, the classroom with the senior citizens, and putting up an exhibition on the street that this is what the change is going to become. And after having put up the exhibition over the weekend, we come out with a resolution and tell them that this is what will happen. But a 5-year wait in between, it comes again in this print media, for the people, by the people. And then after a 3 or 4 years wait comes Smart City, where the quick win projects were to be put up. A small research, the brochure on the left-hand side and the brochure on the right-hand side. The brochure itself communicates that we are not actually trying to do what we are trying to do. Look at the road width at the bottom. It doesn't show a single pedestrian even on the brochure. So we suggested, let us change the brochure, and we modified the brochure on the right-hand side. Having said that, again, a process of people, policy, participation, platform, and the last and the most important is patience. These are not quick wins. It takes a lot of time. Design, discuss, and demonstrate in these 9 streets, public discussions in the auditorium, on the street, in the committee rooms, exhibitions again, with the shopkeepers, with the commissioner, and we coin this what is called as healthy aund ata aple angan. Healthy aund up apka angan. Now your courtyard. And then we put in healthy as habits, ecology, amenities, lifestyle, technology, heritage, and you. You is very, very important. You is extremely important because it is finally people oriented. It is not person oriented at all. This is what was existing. This is what was proposed in terms of views. These were 18 elements which were introduced, and I'm not going to explain all these elements, though I would have loved to. But what appeared in the end as a street ambience was this, where we saved each and every tree. We created this stone sitting all around, stone as a local material, local craft, a wide footpath by taking properties from the shopkeepers. The shopkeepers' property lines were much in front. So we demolished the property lines along with the corporator and reached right till the doorstep. People interacting, youngsters interacting, creating a social space along the street, which becomes the itinerary. Before and after will tell you very, very clearly what was it. You can see the boundary wall in front. The boundary wall goes and you take the space up. So a lot of what you call interaction with the shopkeepers, people, condition of the street on the left-hand side, condition after you do the work, taking care of the trees and giving the tree the breathing space. You can see the tree and you can see the tree having the breathing space with the stonework all around. So you can look at each and every, and all the 6 principles adopted over here, trying to take the footpath at one level itself, universal accessibility, organized parking, everything that we said was put in place. So removing the boundary wall behind, taking that space up, it gives this kind of ambience. And it is used like this. The citizen, this is in the lockdown. This is what the prams have come back. The wheelchair is back. And not only the wheelchair is back, this is one of the most profound photographs that we have. Look at this young person in the wheelchair, but for the universal accessibility being implemented, he wouldn't have been able to chat with these 2 friends of his in the public realm. Citizens chatting, enjoying, physical distancing. Social distancing is not the word that we should be using. Walking. So take care of your health. This is the latest thing which our corporator put it up there, the Surya Namaskars. So this is the Surya Namaskar which was put up, but I will show you a slide. This was already happening. So this is real life Surya Namaskar, or whatever you can call it, Shirshasana. And in the end, I would say with this kind of a research comes the time for the jury. And who is in the jury? So we have been lucky and honored to have 2 jury members who visited our street 1 in 2011 and street 2 in 2018. And that ends our research, and whether we in the jury we have succeeded or not is merely by the visit. So in academics, we are always waiting for appreciation from the teachers. It's the fees that you get is a separate issue. What fees we got or we didn't get, I am not going to deliberate. But a appreciation from our gurus is what makes us going. In the end, I would like to say that healthy and hygienic human neighborhoods can only happen when we start designing beyond the boundary with people and with people participatory approach. We as architects, we are not moving beyond the boundary. And there is always a discussion which is on that with 450 school and maybe 30,000 architects passing out each year, where is the work and where is the job? Let me tell you, there is plenty of job if we start moving beyond our boundaries. Thank you. And this is our young team. And let me tell you, with so many young people listening, the senior most person in my office is half my age. And that is the kind of a young brigade we have, which works with us. And it is not only my work, but it is the work of last 10 to 15 years with many who have put in their human ears in our research. Anybody wants to connect with us can take this screenshot. Thank you very much. Geeta, I'm sorry if I have overshot the time.
Not at all. Hats off to you and your team for putting your heart and soul into what you do. I think, yes, getting those accolades from the gurus would have been special. But I think seeing people use the space the way you, through your iterations, through your research, imagined that it should be used must be so gratifying. Really, really happy that got to see so much of what you do today. And I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, but the way it's been put together, and I mean, at an ethos session also, I'm completely delighted. The research that has, I mean, it was such diverse practices. Amit doing something where he's also looking into research that has been done, doing delving deeper into processes and ideas for creating newer ideas. I think there's been quite a bit of revelation today. Phenomenal work, both of you. I'd really like to now open the session up for questions. Begin with a question that I have myself. Without doubt, research and experimentation are critical to the design process. Western philosophy often focuses on acute documentation, whereas India has a very rich oral tradition, and some of that kind of got showcased in what you showed as well. You would already be noticing how, I mean, many of us prefer to talk over the phone than actually type out an email. Do you think that attitude to research is affected by our attitude towards the documentation of the process? Prasanna, we know intense documentation of, done by PVP faculty and students is also a case in point. And with the Studio Symbiosis, if you look at the 3 offices across the globe, do you see a difference in the way they practice research itself? My question to both of you is, you can take it one after the other in whichever order, is does attitude towards research change the output of the research? And if yes, how do we change that attitude to make research a scientific, universally applicable and replicable process?
Yes, Amit.
Professor Desai, you can take it first, please.
No, I think attitude to research needs to be inculcated. And I think there is always, research is curiosity, I think. Research is curiosity. And this curiosity has to be inculcated. And I always tell my students, and this is how we have been, and I think things are changing. In a class also, I always tell the student, please ask questions. Please ask questions. If you don't ask questions, then how will we really talk about this research? And students are very, very hesitant to ask questions. Why? Why students? In a big auditorium, professionals also, because we are not sure about our question, point number 1. And second one is, what will others think? The others may laugh at my stupid question. Now, this august audience of 236 people right now over here, I would love that they should ask a question, and whether it is a stupid question or not, let us decide. Please, you don't decide.
And there is no stupid question also.
Absolutely, there is nothing called that. So having said that, we are hesitant always, and that is where I think research in India starts taking a little backseat. But it is happening now, and documentation is also happening. We are changing, and we are in the changing realm, because so far we have been at our basics, and I think now the basics have been taken care of, and now there is a will, there is an atmosphere, and there is a commitment also for research. So this curiosity is increasing day by day. Exposure is increasing in last 20 years with whatever one may say about internet, WhatsApp, and everything. Everything and every information has reached the doorstep, and you must know which one to pick up. And I think research will go a big way now into Indian field everywhere. Look at the research for our COVID vaccine also. Why were we talking about architecture? So there is a huge research environment which is now happening. It's a very, very positive thing.
Happy to hear that. Amit, so do you see a difference between your three offices really in the way you do research, or is there a system that you've set in place in a sense across the offices?
I think research is really person-based. The background someone comes from. So let's say we worked at Zaha's office, one of our partners, he worked at Toyoto's office. So I think the background where a person comes from defines the research, and diversity of research is beautiful. Because if everyone does research the same way, it will be like a monotonous, I don't know, salt without food and spices. So I think research, someone like Professor Desai works with models. We are working with computational techniques. These old masters were also working with analog models. Someone does paper sketches. So I think research is just opening your brain and to possibilities. That's all it is. And so it's very important, let's say when starting a project, not to have a preconceived notion. A lot of people I meet, they say, I want to make a cool project. Like, how do you define a cool project? Anyone can make a cool project. The idea is to make a meaningful project. As architects in US, architecture consists, I think 40% of the carbon footprint comes from architecture in US. That's the data I have. So if we have a great responsibility as architects, it's not just visuals and spaces and other things. So I think this research is very important to open our horizons, listen to everyone. And Professor Desai, you said you should ask questions, but I think a lot of people, they should also just listen for a change. They say, silence is golden. So people just want to speak and not listen. I think listening also absorb it, be a sponge. Research is being like a sponge. You absorb everything and you filter out what you don't want and you keep with you what you want. So I think it's really this diversity of research, which I really believe in. Yeah.
Thank you. Nice. Tarun, you have a couple of questions, I think. Would you like to take them?
Yeah, it was really a wonderful session and it really opened up my, the way I'll have to be working from right now. Just to Mr. Amit. So in terms of, the multiple projects that the office handles, so there's a lot of, research that's required, in a different way. And how do you keep yourself aligned to, to go to and fro from one project to another? Do your thoughts get de-aligned, or like, how do you manage yourself?
See, the thing is with projects that every project comes with a different set of parameters. One is a housing project, one is a residential, one is a, let's say, hotel project. The site is very different from each other. The surroundings are very different from each other. So in reality, no two projects are similar. So as soon as you, let's say if I'm working in Udaipur versus a housing project in Hyderabad, there's a complete switch. Because in Hyderabad, I'm looking at numbers, constructability, it's 150 meter high, I'm looking at wind speed. So I think also it's experience, right? I think after working on projects for a couple of years, you manage to bifurcate, but also it's beautiful when there's a crossover in projects. So let's say architecture, when we say research, is about prototyping. At times, a prototype which you did for interiors, for a, let's say, feature wall, can end up becoming a facade feature because you are testing materials and systems and how to execute things. So I think bifurcation happens automatically, but we are never trying to create a divide between projects. As a research office, maybe, at times, let's say once we did a research for 8 months on a temple project. So this research resulted in one design, but then the entire fractal system, the scripts and everything, the repertoire of design was there. So the office grew with it. So with every project, even if we do 7-8 designs, we're not looking at designs only, we're looking at system development. So if we are doing 5 designs for one project as concept design, and the client, of course, is going to choose only one because he can only make one. So the rest 4, maybe out of this 4, one system was very beautiful, which we thought was very nice. So it's also cross-pollination between projects. So it's a very free lifestyle, I think, which we are trying to live in terms of research, in terms of projects.
Amit, you have it's like a reality show. Someone has applied to work with you.
Really?
What are the eligibility criteria to work at your office? How does one associate his work?
Actually, a lot of people think that I don't know for our office or any office, it's about softwares. We don't care about softwares. The only thing is we need architects. We don't need cat monkeys. A lot of portfolios which we get, they copy scripts online. So there's a lot of scripts online these days. They copy it, they stick it in the portfolio, and they think that we are born yesterday and we'll understand that, they've done this. But we know, I think, every single. So the idea is that a person should be completely dedicated to the profession and they should be a good architect. That's it. I think these are the only two criteria which we look for and nothing else.
Tarun, carry on.
Yeah. So just to Mr. Desai, like while being a student, like sometimes you might just black out in terms of not having inspiration. So a lot of us being in the digital age, we turn to, inspiration on the internet, say some architects we look up to and all of that. So where does design research and pedagogy has to start?
I think design research and pedagogy has to start from, what is called as memory recall theory. I always say that. I tell my students, wherever you come from, wherever you belong to, whether you belong to a small town, whether you belong to a big town, whether you have come from Dubai, it is 18 years that you have already spent. And it is very, very important that you look back from childhood, because I think when you come in architecture, it is these 18 years which matter a lot. And you have had tremendous exposure. You have traveled, you have stayed, whether it is in a village and you have kept your ears and eyes open. You have interacted with the people. You have done everything. So I think that should become your inspiration. It is not that suddenly now you are into architecture and you are doing something else. You are not. This is the only course in which there is a continuity right from the childhood, because it is for people you are designing. And that is what should become your backbone. That should become your inspiration. And then over a period of time, you will always find some milestone. You will find some teacher in your college. You will find somebody in the society. You will find somebody at your home itself. There could be some questions coming from your family itself. I think your neighborhood. This is from where I think you inculcate this habit of research. And you have seen just now the pendulum of research. What Amit showed is one end of the pendulum, and there is this end of the pendulum that we are doing. And look at this, architect is part of these both pendulums, and this is such a wonderful area. So there is a huge opportunity which is there. Only the student should, if at all they are coming, they should always keep their batteries charged, eyes open, and as Amit rightly said, listen very carefully. Listen very carefully.
Right.
Whether it is news, it is fine. Listen to the news, read the newspaper. Because if we ask them to read straight away some big theory and all, start from simple things. There is this whole issue of language. अंग्रेजी नहीं आती तो हम क्या करेंगे? अरे अंग्रेजी की जरूरत नहीं है. Japanese में भी सारा कुछ किया बिना अंग्रेजी के. So today I think all our students, and you have been part of NASA and all, what needs is every individual has the potential, and I am absolutely confident with everyone that he and she can rise up. Just look at your childhood. The childhood will teach you a lot of things. There are some wonderful things you are doing. We at our school say that the first year is nursery of architecture. You are in kindergarten when you are in first year. So you pick up your all colors and everything and do all naughty things that you used to do in your childhood. And I think the school should allow that.
Well said. We have a question from Sonam, who's from Ethos. I'm going to ask it. This is to Amit. You demonstrated an iterative process and approach to design. Most students and professionals as well struggle with time management. When should research and iteration stop? When should design begin? Is it a linear process? Is there always a to and fro? What do you follow?
So I think the answer lies in the question. It's an iterative process. Right. So we're not writing scripts or doing computational or whatever we are doing for creating systems. It's a very focused approach towards the site and the constraints of the site. And so it's always back and forth. Once Patrick, in one of Patrick's lectures, showed a very interesting slide and which happened to us also. So when you're designing, you are iterating not just in terms of same design, but you're iterating different options. to see the site feasibility, location of the building, heights, a lot of factors, how the building can sit separately on the design and other things. So unless you've exhausted all the options and you have this feeling from inside that, yes, now I'm done, option one might be the final one. It has happened a couple of times that the first design we did was the design. But this iterative process which is there, I think you have to exhaust the options to be true to the design and the site. And it does not matter if it was the first option, you have not wasted time, but you are satisfied with yourself. I think deviating from the point, but when I started architecture, the idea was always to prove it to other people. The idea was to prove it to the peers and Zahas, to prove it to the principals and other people. I think now we've reached a stage where I think if I can prove to myself that I've been true to the design, I think I've done a good job. So this is how I think iterative design is for us. And there is no differentiation between research and design. Research is for design. So I hope I was to the point, but maybe I deviated.
Thanks. No, I think there was a lot that, besides the question, I think you addressed a lot more also, and I think that's great. Do we have Aditya Kumar Singh here? I think we do have him. Can we unmute him? He had a question he sent on the Google form. We can ask him to. And I think probably Prasanna Desai would have to take that. Aditya ji? Shall I? So he's heading a college in Jammu. I thought it would be nice to have him. Isha, can you unmute him?
Yes, I've asked to unmute. They need to accept the request.
So meanwhile, let me just, whenever we get to unmute him, we'll take his question. Shreya Joglekar. Shreya has a couple of questions. Maybe we can have her ask her question directly. Shreya here. I can ask her question, but it'll be nice.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yes, Shreya, go ahead.
Thank you so much. My first question was to Amit sir, which was that while creating script-based designs, we need to somehow let go of the control that we have over the design output while feeding it into the script. We just feed in the parameters that we think would help in controlling the design, and then the output is sometimes out of our hands. So how do we let go of the control that we have over this output and become more flexible to what we get in the generated product?
So Shreya, thanks a lot for your question. I think the couple of things you're speaking about here. One is algorithm-based design or parameter-based design. Second is artificial intelligence. And third is agent-based modeling. So when you're doing parametrics or algorithmic-based design, you actually are not letting go of anything in the design, because you are setting each and every parameter for the end result. And if anything, you're getting more control over the design, because you're very precise with numbers and everything when you're setting up a script for algorithmic design. Now coming to artificial intelligence. So AI by definition is artificial intelligence. So we are actually doing a project in Copenhagen in Antwerp for a company called Digital Village. So it's all AI based. So when you're setting up an AI system, you're looking at the result, not in terms of visuals, but in terms of the experience and in terms of the performance criteria. So yes, when you set up AI script, I would not say lose control over the thing, but instead of manually what you could have drawn like in 10 days, one option, you can get 50 options within 1 hour of setting up the algorithm for AI. So you can see our mind is limited, right? As humans, there's so much we can compute. So in this case, the entire thing is that using these AI tools, we can create a system and create these algorithms and iterations. Maybe you get 1,000 iterations. And then as a designer, you say, okay, I like this iteration. Then you further develop this iteration and you look at the parameters which resulted in the iteration. I think there's this big misconception that using algorithmic design, you let go of control. But believe me, you get so much more control over design that you can define each and every parameter of the design to the smallest bracket, which is being fixed on the project. So I hope I answered your question, or if you have a counter question, you can ask me.
While we are at it, Amit, there's another question on the software and the tools that your office uses. Would you like to spend a little time on that? For research and analysis.
Yeah, the tools are, there are a lot of tools out there right now. I don't think I would like to mention one tool because then I'm biased towards a tool, let's say.
Right.
But then there's a lot of tools from Autodesk are there. Then there's a lot of free softwares like Blender is there. Of course, Autodesk has Revit, Maya, Alias Studio is there. Then ArchiCAD is there. I think it does not matter which tool you learn. Always what we learn, in Zahas we use digital projects, which was CATIA Lite. It was CATIA's offshoot from Gary Technologies. The idea is not which tool, but any tool. Pick any one tool and learn it properly. If you master one tool, it can do anything which all the other tools can do because the algorithms are written properly for these tools.
Shreya, you had one more question, right? Which was not related to this, but you'd like to go ahead with that?
Yes, ma'am. My next question was to Prasanna Desai, sir. I really enjoyed listening to the slum rehabilitation project, and I was wondering that what the experience was for being being a mediator between both the residents and the government authorities, and how the design reconsiderations that you experienced throughout the process. And I was wondering what that experience was like.
So while you're at it, Prasanna, you can also address where did the residents go during the process? How did you manage the interim? That's a question from Mr. Misra.
Yeah, so let me take the second one first. When this was under demolition, where did the residents go? The system never had any provision for this, that they will be accommodated anywhere. But the people within the slum, you know, they have their relatives, koi kisi ka bhai hai, koi kiska wo hai, wo, they adjust amongst themselves, number one. And all houses were not demolished, only 50% approximately were demolished because others were pakka houses, so they adjusted. Some did pick up houses on rent, maybe at a cost of 5,000, 6,000, whatever. But the real problem there was, what used to happen is as soon as they used to sign the document and say that we have agreed to it, they used to demolish it immediately. And the sanction from the system used to take time, sometimes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And, you know, and the local corporator was very good, I must tell you, very, very good. And he was concerned. And he would also tell them, but these people, somebody would say, demolish kar do. And these poor people would demolish and they are in a rented house for 6 months. Well, that was very, very sad, you know. So that's why that demolition slip came in. Now, we said, who will take this responsibility? See, it is not our responsibility. But somebody wo baate karte kar do demolish, parso se kaam shuru ho jayega. In fact, in the first Janta Janardhan meetings and all, the corporator used to announce कि अब आपका काम अगले महीने शुरू हो जाएगा. उनका अरे क्या बोल रहे हो? अगले महीने, it took almost 6 months to a year after which the work started, but the corporator would announce because you want to build up the confidence of the people, and people have no confidence in the system, you know. 10 years ago, people had no confidence in, there is always this thing, sarkari scheme hai, pata nahi kya hoga. So people demolished and they went to this thing, and that's why we put in the demolition slip, and we would never issue a demolition slip unless we are very sure that the contractor is mobilized, the structural drawing is there, and work will start. Few of you will be very surprised to know this, stayed there on the site itself. So they would just stay on the street there itself with their luggage. And as soon as one slab is cast, they are into it, and they are taking care of their house. They are curing the house. They are, in fact, we wanted these people to be participating in the construction also, because some of them are masons, some of them are electricians, some of them are something. And I didn't mention this. They paid 30,000 of the cost. So 10% of the 3 lakh was paid by them. So some went on rent, some to relatives, and some stayed there on, stay put there. This is the second one. The first question was that how did you negotiate between the sarkar, the politician? No, this is tough, you know, and this was the evolutionary process. We never knew what we are entering into, to be very honest. When Dr. Sheila Patel called us, Dr. Jokin, I must say that, Dr. Jokin and Dr. Sheila Patel from Mumbai, they involved us. We didn't know what we are deep into. And slowly and steadily, वो जैसे कहते हैं ना, पैर हमारा धसता चला गया, हम उसमें धसते चले गए और हमारे को पता नहीं चला. And we started enjoying it also. And this negotiation was always tough. But let me tell you, you have to come to their level and you have to take out your hat as an architect. You start saying, this is my design and we are doing, no, this is your design. We are doing design with you. अच्छा, आपको toilet किधर चाहिए, आपको किधर चाहिए, आपको कैसा चाहिए. And then we help negotiate. So this is, and that's why I said we were not able to do any research on material or anything because the time was going. Mud blocks, concrete blocks, etc. Nothing. The whole research and whole effort went into pure negotiation. This was an whole effort of negotiation, and lucky again. And I must say that we have been working with government. We have been very lucky to get government officers, government engineers. Everybody wants to do good work. Let me tell you. We always say that engineers like this, sanction nahi hota, ye nahi hota, wo nahi hota. Everything was in place because they knew that we were simply doing it for the benefit of the poor. The politician was also there. We never crossed lines in between, but he understood that we also want to help this being built. And finally, what does the politician want? He wants his community or his vote bank to be ensured that they are happy. So we would always say, and we now also say on the streets, let me tell you, with politicians, sir, iske aise bana do, hum jaise keh rahe hain, aap bana do, agla election aap jeet jaoge. We say it and this is recorded, and today also you are recording it. So it is finally the benefit of the people. You must come down, and you saw all of our meetings were on the floor. So honestly, never realized what we are getting into. These models that we made this, we kept on adding and adding. Just to give you a data, who asked the question or for this, each house was average, designs were modified 6 times average out of 1,000. Some houses were modified 13, 14, 15 times, and some houses were modified twice or thrice. So the average modification was 6 times. So I sent a letter to Sheila Patel, saying that, or just informally, ma'am, what about our fees? Is it also going to at least double? It doesn't happen, we know that. And I must also admit what Amit said recently, just now, that which one will you choose and all. Sometimes the first solution is the best one, but you have to really work out the others to negate those to come to this, oh, the first one was the right one. So this is all a process, and negotiation was tough, no two opinions, but it happened. And we really don't know how it happened. It took a lot of time, and it is not a fast thing. It takes time. We were called by the World Bank also. How do you expedite this? We want, now, as soon as we say expedited, then people's participation, it doesn't work. Now it is 10 years since World Bank called us. We said that there are a number of people, there are 400 architecture colleges. We can train them. We can do that. We have in our office people who have understood this process. Let us make a beginning. This was a big meeting in Delhi with World Bank. But no, they were looking at number. In this year, we want to do 1 lakh. They didn't build, I'm sure, 1,000 also in that year. So I think we need to understand certain things take time. It is, I don't want to say it, but it is like certain, in our human body also, certain things take time. It cannot be, you cannot be cured overnight. You have to have that. So I think the city problem,
you spoke of patience. So
yes,
patience is extremely important.
We need to tell the bureaucrats, we need to tell the politicians, we need to tell the citizens that certain things are not Maggie 2-minute noodle. It is not Maggie 2-minute noodle.
It takes me back 20 years when I was working with Avas in Bangalore, close to a decade. I worked with slums and I did these meetings that you're talking about, sitting on the floors, early morning, late nights. Does bring in a sense of nostalgia. As a follow-up, you spoke about the process during and the planning phase. There's a question from Sarang Bhide who asks, how do you stop encroachments from happening? And he's addressing the pavement specifically. How do you let that continue the way it was envisaged?
So Sarang, this is always there, that how do you stop? First of all, I think we have to understand and agree that the on pavements, the hawkers should become part of it. They have to be part of the street. Once you accept that, they need to be organized. And I don't know whether you are aware of it. Almost 3 years ago, the Parliament has passed an act. There is an Act of Parliament now, which is about Hawkers and Vendors Act. So it gives the hawkers and vendors the right to earn their living on the street. So having said that, it is a very detailed act and the municipal corporations are supposed to implement it. The implementation process is also there, but let me tell you, I am not aware of any municipal corporation in the country who has implemented it so far. But the process is currently on and we are helping PCMC, Pimpri Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, to do it. But the first thing is evacuate the hawkers. Put them in that particular plot, wahan pe ek hawkers plaza bana denge. So it doesn't work like that. You know, hawker is always on the desire line, what is called as a desire line. From one point to another where pedestrians are walking, the hawkers will sit next to it, like the station roads of Mumbai, you know, station road of Mumbai. You are going from home to the station, the hawkers are there. So you should define the spaces to them, and then you should register these hawkers and you should charge to them. You know, monthly token amount needs to be paid and this is to be collected by the ward office. So it also then goes into the kitty of the government. I give a very simple example for this. Streets are public spaces. You all go to the malls. You have big plaza inside the mall, the atrium inside the mall. Inside the mall, you have a cafe coffee day. You have somebody selling, jewelry. Somebody selling watches. And the tile pattern is modified. The tile pattern is modified and a space given to him, 4 feet by 4 feet. Cafe Coffee Day has this curved space where he can put his chairs and everything. Similar pattern needs to come onto the street, and we have done it. That this is 4 feet by 4 feet for you. This is your ownership, and believe me, once you give ownership to them, they will keep it clean, neat, because this belongs to them. So we have to start working on it, and the act is there with us now. So I hope in due course of time, and this belief of moving hawkers away from a location, they should never become a hindrance, that is for sure. They should not come into the movement line. And the biggest advantage over here is Indian streets are always, the edge is changing. It is not like Chandigarh, which is a planned straight line. So there are always niches, corners, some areas where you can insert the hawkers. So they need to be planned and organized, legal, illegal. And this is the entire job of the Pune Municipal Corporation with the ward office. And I think to design and locate and help, again, the architectural fraternity, those who are interested in this kind of a work, should come into the realm. And I'm sure they will come into the realm.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Sudarshana, you have a question for Amit. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask? Sudarshana, are you here? Her question, Amit, is we have different kinds of diagramming, but not all are comprehensive unless until explained by the designer. So should the diagrams be simple and comprehensive for all? Comprehensible, I presume she means, for all.
So just writing her the answer there in the chat box. So see, I think design, as architects, we should be only true to the site and the design. If someone does not understand the diagram, they don't understand the diagram. It does not matter. The diagram is just a designing tool. So we don't have to simplify that diagram thinking if someone else will understand it or not. It's not the point. See, Mr. Desai, what he is doing, a lot of people will not even know why he's doing it. Yeah, like spending so many hours working with these people. It's also a diagramming tool which he's using. So the entire thing is you are doing what you think is right for the project. If someone understands, okay. If they don't understand, it's okay. No problem.
As long as the solution works.
Sorry?
As long as the solution works.
Yeah.
That's what should matter. Pratik, are you here? Pratik had a question again. Maybe Amit, you can take that. How do you define the simplest design from the perspective of the architect?
From the perspective of a?
Of the architect, of the designer. What would you say is the simplest design is what he says? I thought if he was here, he could probably put it to you.
A cube, I guess. I don't know. I guess a cube. I really don't know what he means because
no, I think he means through your iteration. He's unable to unmute. Can you help him, Isha? I think he means through the iterations, there'll be multiple designs that would come in. Which one do you think would be the simplest? Is probably how do you assess that? Is what he's trying to.
I think it comes from experience, no? Like it's been now 18 years since I'm practicing architecture. So you look at a lot of things. You don't look at the design, you also look at the constructability, the materials, execution, costing. So when we are assessing a design, it's not just about the visuals of the project. It's trying to look at all the other parameters of also the time frame is very important at times. So I think once we overlay all of them, then we're looking at the optimum solution. Or if the optimum solution at concept design, the design is not finished, it's just starting. So as long as we know that this design is the design and we know at the back of our mind how to resolve it, we go for it. So it's a very intuitive process at times. So there's one article from Lars Boybrook, which I always found very inspirational. So he speaks about Formula One drivers. So when these guys are driving at 500, 600 kilometers per hour, whatever speed they're driving, and they get a turn, they're not thinking because it will take them a second or two to think, but it needs milliseconds to turn. It's instinct. So through years of practice, through years and years of practice, they develop an instinct of driving a car. So similarly, architects also develop an instinct, which I'm sure all of you have after experiencing so many years. So when you look at something without even justifying for yourself, you would know yes or no, right or wrong. So I think it comes through this instinct of practicing for over of years that you can say that, yes, this is the optimum or the simplest design which we can choose.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Pratik, did that answer your question? Do you have something to say?
Namaskaram, everyone. I would like to thank Mr. Architect Amit sir to answer my question, but I would really like if Architect Prasanna Desai sir also answer the question, as he has worked on the research with the research to the participation in the slum areas and redeveloping the entire informal areas, informal settlements to a particular standard living for the beings over there. So means the question was they have not worked out on any on not achieving any particular goal, but they have gone for a path for going on a simplistic designs and practices of be it construction or aesthetic work. So how could in future on any other project we could define that this particular thing is simplest or and is functional as well for a with the perspective of an architect?
Prasanna, that's for you.
Yeah, so this is what exactly is the question I didn't understand, because how is it replicable? How is it, what is exactly your question? Can you repeat it? And
like you have approached a simplistic design. There was no any you have not explored on any out there wasn't any outcome out of it, be it aesthetic ones. I'm just incorporating that thing.
Yeah, so I think the whole see, there are different briefs for different things. Now when we want to really upgrade the quality of life, now slums, what is exactly the definition of slum is the question. You know, I said in between also that virtually this slum word, I will tell you, multi-story buildings at times, and you see nowadays a huge concrete jungle around. Isn't it very slummy, where buildings are at shaking distance with each other?
Exactly.
So slum is not the one which we really see and say that this is a slum. Slum is something there is something called, which is called, can be called unauthorized. You know, unauthorized is different. So what has happened is the most of the slums are unauthorized. So that's why they are termed as slums. Whereas I think the slum as a definition is applicable to many developments that we know, whether it is low rise, whether it is high rise, etc. So finally, what we want quality of life to be, you know, reasonable. I will use the word reasonable in whatever kind of a built environment that we make. That's why when I trying to show the Jaisalmer picture, the quality of life today also is reasonably in place. The only drawback in Jaisalmer, if you may call it a drawback, in Jaisalmer and Jodhpur, is that your vehicle doesn't reach your doorstep. It's only the vehicle. It is not the ambulance. Ambulance is not required. You can put anybody onto a stretcher and take it to the corner from where an ambulance can pick it up. It is easier for anybody to take somebody horizontally than bringing him down from the 20th floor at times if you don't have a stretcher lift. So these are the kind of parallels of research that one is looking at. Having said that, yes, aesthetics is not part of it. And I told you very clearly that this was never part of what is called as clickety-click architecture. And it comes to these two final statements that I always use. Do you want the food to taste good or look good? You know, So finally,
Yes,
everybody will answer, yes, it has to taste good. And the next thing is it has to be healthy also. It has to be chatpata, but every time you cannot have chatpata. That is point one. And second is same with people. Do you want to look good or do you want to feel good? So I think all our buildings need to feel good. So what Amit is doing, finally, he has never lost the whole content of it, that the building should give us the feel good factor, not necessarily the look good factor. And that is where I think we should really start differentiating. And that doesn't mean aesthetics is not good. Aesthetics is absolutely important, but the feel good factor, if you start taking care of, automatically everything starts becoming aesthetically pleasing. Look at trees, look at our natural environment. Every natural environment, or the birds or the species and everything. That is where we do our basic design in first year, isn't it? A lot of basic design goes in. So a lot of this work which Zadid has been doing and all these things that have been happening are inspirations from nature and merge with technology. So I think that is how one has to look at it. So there has to be a balance. Sometimes something will overpower. A hospital OT room has to be technically sound rather than beautiful, isn't it? Whereas a urban space in a college where youngsters are chatting and all, that could become a very vibrant space with a difference. So it is a need-based scenario where I think this needs to balance.
So this, if I can just add something to this,
please.
Because what Prateek said was about that your projects are maybe not aesthetically driven, but I found them very beautiful. I think aesthetics, Prateek, is a very subjective topic. Something which you might not like, I might love it. So just to say that, and what is the core principle of architecture, Prateek? Why do you practice architecture?
To give a functional space relevant to the user?
No, the core purpose of architecture is to give roof over a human being. The core purpose of architecture is to give residential buildings. And what Professor Desai was doing, if you would have noticed, I think it's a very painstakingly, I would not be able to do that. I don't have so much patience, how much Professor Desai has. Because, to go from house to house and months of research he has done and sitting with these people and, the smile on their face, which he would have seen of these people when he was doing this project. So I think, this topic of aesthetics is always a bit overblown for me. I don't care about aesthetics, right? Aesthetics is something which is a part of your personality. So your personality always shows in the designs which you are creating. So I think never get trapped into aesthetics, and it's something which you should not really look at as a student or architect. So yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Amit. Thanks, Prateek. Saptadeep, you've been wanting to ask a question for a while now. It has to do with urban design, I think, and it's directed to Prasanna. Will you unmute yourself and ask your question, Saptadeep? We don't want to spend too much time waiting. I'm just going to ask the question because it's a simple, straightforward. He says, Prasanna, for a 20-minute neighborhood, how will urban design be able to encourage people to walk with social distancing or rephrase that to physical distancing to the nearest market rather than go by vehicles in the post-COVID situation? How can we encourage people to walk?
No, you have to provide the facility. See, people will walk if the footpath is at one level, number one. It is encouragement free. That means at least you have a pathway which is uninterrupted. These are the two things which are required. There is not really that there is a shade or बहुत गर्मी है वगैरह कुछ नहीं है. Footpath एक level पे होना जरूरी है. Now to get the footpath at one level, this is a design issue, and the best thing to do is use the Disability Act. There is an act of the government and there is a Supreme Court order which says that all the public spaces and everywhere you must have universal accessibility. Now you need some kind of a law. Everything cannot be designed by design itself. So this law is there. So we have been forcing this law. The engineers, the bureaucrats, politicians have understood this to a certain extent. And if we have the footpath at one level, which is comfortable, then I'm absolutely, what you are saying is absolutely right. Within 20 minutes, they should be able to walk. We must own a car. I will own a vehicle. The question is not of owning the vehicle at all. You may have 2 cars also, 3 cars, doesn't matter for me. But the point is, how many trips do you make? We should not be making trips for shorter distances. And that is what causes congestion. So within neighborhood, we should be able to walk. Let us have footpath at one level, implement the Disability Act, and one will be able to do it. And there has to be a will, and there has to be a barter between the right of way, edge to edge barter. Everybody, see, it comes through Constitution. The Indian Constitution talks about equality and equity. So it is equity. So it is called equitable distribution of road space. So we must have space for the cars. We must have space for the parking. We must have space for services, space for pedestrian, space for trees, space. So all this needs to be distributed. Hawkers. So that is equitable distribution of road space. And there is much more to it in terms of telling. Maybe some other time one can exactly show how one does this kind of a barter, and yes. And when you put it at one level, the one slide which I didn't show is that your pram can go and then your luggage trolley can go. Let me tell you, the real problem is, and I also, if I have to carry 2 kilos of tomatoes, 1 kilos of onion and 5 kilos, how do I carry even 300, 400 meters? I can't. So I take out my car or two-wheeler. Now, if I can put it into a trolley and roll a trolley and come into my house, it is very easy. So this idea was always there when I go to a Reliance shop, used to go. See, I stay in a building, 4th floor. I go down, I take out my car. I go to the Reliance shop. I park in the Reliance basement. Then I go up and then I take a trolley. And in the trolley, I put all the purchases. Then I unload it at the counter, then again load it at the counter. I bring all those 20 kilos, put them into my car, come home, again unload from my car, put it into the lift, get it onto the 4th floor. Okay, this is the process. Just imagine, I always dreamt of this, that वो Reliance की trolley में सामान डाला, वो trolley की trolley में अगर उठा के घर पे लेके आ जाऊं तो, and if I can replace the trolley with my pram, old pram which is lying or which is thrown, or there is a trolley which people use in Europe. So the number of trips will reduce, and we are only, the purpose is to reduce number of trips within this 20 meters. Baki, you must own car and we must use it 4-5 kilometers, 10 kilometers. I will use car or public transport. So absolutely correct. Put the footpath at one level and without any interruption, people will walk. Give them the facility, people will walk. People use it, Mobile phones came 20 years ago. Everybody is using mobile phones. Now you don't have to be really learned to use a mobile phone. People walk, and walking is our first habit. Shreya Gadepalli of ITDP always shows this slide. Birds do what? Birds fly. Fish swims. Humans walk.
Nice. Thank you. So I'm going to end with the last question. I think otherwise we can just keep going on. Vanshika Parekh asks, and both of you can take this maybe. Sometimes researching, understanding, filtering so much information takes a lot of time, that the actual design process is either left with no time or less time, which results in an output that may not be as good. How do you manage time and cope with that? Prasanna and Amit both. Prasanna can begin and then Amit can.
I can simply say that it is not that the design starts after the research. Never. And this, I use this in my studio also. The day I have introduced the project to you, your design has started in your mind. Your thinking has started and your research has also started. So it is simultaneous. It is never that I have done my research, abhi main baith ke sochta hu, ab mere ko ek bada sa idea aayega. Nahi, ye aise nahi hota. Haan, kabhi you need more time for finding the facts, finding the data. Maybe if I'm doing the multi-story for the first time, I have to get the bylaws, everything right and all. It may, but the design process starts simultaneous. It's a simultaneous act. It is not a separate act at all.
Amit, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, if you don't have time, just work harder. That's what you can do. Just work longer and harder. That's about it. I think this is not rocket science. I think as architects, we are always called students of architecture. I've never been to college in my life. I did my bachelor's from a college which was called school. I did a master's from A, which was also called school. So although I have a double master's in architecture, but I've not been technically to a college. So I think this is there for a reason that they call it a school of architecture, because it is to imbibe this thought that we are students, and as students we have to always learn, work hard, And every day we have to prove our mettle to what we are worth.
Thank you.
Nice answer.
Yeah.
Nice.
That kind of concludes our Q&A round because we're getting close. We have a little more to show everybody before we conclude. Tarun, you have something to say? We haven't really, is there any question you'd like to ask, or you can thank?
No, I'm done. You asked many questions.
Yeah, from NASA's side, I mean, I'd like to thank you for being part of this session and actively part of it.
We're always grateful to Ethos and ASIC.
Thank you. So we had announced, we had announced in the beginning that we're going to be having this giveaway. So there are three courses that you can choose from if you win the giveaway, and that's something we especially curated to improve multidisciplinary learning. The courses on psychology, sociology, and environmental economics and planning. All of them are specially curated to give you the choices, insights into the subject matter. I'm sure all of you have taken a lot of inputs from this session. So now rack your brains to answer these questions. We're going to be pasting a link in the chat box. Please go on it and answer the questions. The team will then announce the fastest finger first, whoever got the 3 answers right. So Isha, please go ahead and paste the link. I'll call out the questions, of course, but do let me know when you've pasted the link.
It's there. You can all go and fill it up.
Yeah, so if you can take whoever is going to be the fastest, we'll figure out. But the first question there is, which of these following tools did Antonio Gaudí use for the Sagrada La Familia? Was it the string bubble experiment? Was it the hanging chain experiment, or the cantilever balance model? That's the first question for you. The multiple
saying the link is not
audience,
visible.
nobody answers. Please, no, not here. Please fill up
Only
only
link is not visible. I hope it is there, Isha.
Isha, there it is.
Yeah, I've just pasted it again. I think the first time Isha pasted it was not seen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here it is. The others can just, mute yourselves and please don't answer into the mic. That won't be fun. It's only on the Google form that we are seeking answers. Which of the following tools did Antonio Gaudí use for the Sagrada La Familia? Was it the string bubble experiment? Was it the hanging chain experiment, or the cantilever balance model? The second question is, what did Amit Gupta, architect Amit Gupta, say was critical to the design process at Studio Symbiosis? Is it research and diagramming? Is it research and documentation? Is it research and debate? What did Amit say was critical to their design process at Studio Symbiosis? Is it research and diagramming, research and documentation, or research and debate? And the third question, what is architecture according to Prasanna Desai, Professor Prasanna Desai? Is it a pizza? Is it the Indian thali, or is it burgers? What is architecture according to Professor Prasanna Desai? Is it pizza? Is it Indian thali, or burgers? Okay, time's up. Lovely to see the celerity and the enthusiasm. So while our team backend tallies the answers, I'll share some bits of how research helps us at Ethos. Wherever at Ethos we begin a new expedition, be it a simple presentation, a social media post, a blog that's being written by our team, a competition brief, or a full-fledged course, research becomes the heart of it. Not only helps us with the content, but with the which typology to choose for a competition, which course to offer. We kind of seek opinions from the community. We've even conducted researches for compensation benchmarking and architect salaries. Our latest venture is a handbook of design for the Institute of Indian Interior Designers. It began with a call for tips that designers would like to share with those who cannot afford designers, in the hope of spreading design literacy. This was then vetted through a systematic medium of acceptance and rejection of tips, followed by a compilation, verification, and correction of ideas. Now we can proudly say that by the end of September, we'll be ready to release the handbook to the world. Another topic we're delving into is design language. We have curated a course on visual identities, understanding self, client, and developing a design language and brand identity. It's called Brand New Design Language. It's a course by New York-based artist Noora Manchanda. Isha, will you please come up and talk a little bit about this, after which we can announce the winner?
Yes, definitely. So let me just share my screen and take you through this. So at Ethos ASH, we always, try to curate courses that are different and that, push the boundaries of education and introduce students to new perspectives. This course is one of those. So as designers, we do have, quite a command over graphics, and we are used to creating stories. Now, let's work towards creating a language. Branding and identity creation is something that is extremely important in today's times. It can be for yourself or it can be for a client. If you're designing for someone and the client says, okay, don't just give me a space, make this into a brand. This will tell you how to do that. So through this, you can learn how to create logos, how to create print and packaging media, websites and social media graphics and everything else. It is a 6-week course, a 6-session course with Noora Manchanda, who is a multidisciplinary designer based in New York. She has a lot of experience working in branding, and now she's here to share this with you. It is going to be a live session, and you can interact with her, you can get feedback on it, and basically you can just have a lot of fun with the entire course. This course starts next weekend. So next Saturday, we will be having the first session. So if you're interested in this, enroll right away. And since this is ASAG's anniversary month, we are also offering special discounts. So you can get a 15% discount on this course if you enroll in the next few days. So if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat box. I will be posting this link in the chat box as well. So you can go, you can check out the landing page. If you have anything, feel free to call us or email us, and we are here to solve those. So yes, looking forward to having all of you over here. Now back to you, Geeta ma'am.
Thanks, Isha. Thank you. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for. The winner of the giveaway is, a round of applause if we could, I'll give it to her. Oindrila Ghosh from PMCA Cuttack, from Pilu Modi College of Architecture, Cuttack. Congratulations, you've been awarded a free seat for the course that you choose from the given options. We have your details from the form, and the team will connect with you shortly. I think Tarun has a few words to say before we conclude, thanking the speakers.
Firstly, thank you, Geeta ma'am, for getting all of us on board here. And thank you, Mr. Amit and Mr. Desai, for this enriching session. I think all of us are, if not all together, but we have at least made an attempt to orient ourselves to research, to be a part of practice and pedagogy. So, yeah. And thanks again, Ethos and ASH team, for having everything done smoothly.
Thanks, Tarun. I'll be following you to see how much of that you implement in your work. Wow, this has been truly a wonderful session. I've been getting a lot of messages with great reviews. I'd like to thank all of you for being here, to the students, teachers, learners, mentors, colleges who took this up in full swing, PVP College, of course, but we also have Chitkara, both the SRN colleges, the SAID and SEAD, IPS Academy, Indore, Manav Rashna University, Pilu Modi College of Architecture, Symbiosis School of Planning and Architecture and Design, who came on board formally with us for this session. We hope this has inspired you to continue making research an intrinsic part of your design and pedagogical process. We request all colleges and students to also check out ethosempowers.com for our new competitions. Transparent 16 this year focuses on hybrid living. Amit, you've been part of one of the editions. IGBC Green Design Competition hopes to bring better healthcare facilities to rural India, and the Asia Young Designers Award is looking at empathetic designs this year. You will find the link in the chat box for these opportunities. It's been pasted, and do check them out. Thank you to the team of Ethos, ASEG, and NASA for making this event a success. To Tarun for being a great team member and a good host as well. And to Architect Prasanna and Amit for gracing this virtual stage. Thank you all once again, and God bless. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.